Chapter 81, Desperate Pleas, Grace's P. The pain was unbearable, but I was used to that by now. My body burned as if every vein was filled with molten silver, each heartbeat sending fresh waves of torment through me. I gritted my teeth, sweat dripping from my forehead as I clutched the phone with trembling hands. "Thomas, you can't keep pushing me like this." My voice cracked, hoarse and desperate. For a moment, I thought I heard him sigh, but then his cold, cruel tone ripped through the line. "No more excuses," Thomas said sharply. "You promised me the Moonstone elixirs. I want them. Now." I nearly broke. It felt like he was tightening a noose around my neck. My breathing grew erratic, and my chest tightened. "I told you I can't," I cried, my words coming out in a torrent. "Do you think I'm stalling on purpose? Look at me, I can't even stand without help." There was a silence on the other end, but instead of comfort, it only made my frustration boil. "You don't understand," I whispered bitterly. This poison, it's killing me." My voice rose with panic. "My wolf, she's slipping away. She's fading. I can barely feel her anymore." At that, Thomas gave a short, cold laugh. "Maybe you should worry about fading faster," he said, his tone devoid of any sympathy. "You think your suffering gives you a free pass? It doesn't. This is your mess. Clean it up." His words felt like a slap. I clutched my chest, my breath shallow as panic clawed at my insides. You monster!" I screamed, my throat raw. "I trusted you. You said you'd help me." "And I will," he replied smoothly, his voice unbothered by my outburst. "If you keep your end of the deal, you get me the elixirs, or you deal with the consequences." "You want consequences?" My tone turned vicious, fueled by the hopeless rage bubbling inside me. "How about I end everything right now? Let's see how you like it when my death brings scrutiny to you, Thomas. I could end this game in one move." For the first time, I thought I'd cornered him, but his laugh, low and biting, shattered any illusion of control I had left. "Oh, Grace," he said, his voice dripping with mockery, "that's the difference between us. You're out of moves. You take yourself out, then you're doing me a favor. At least the pack will give you a decent burial." My vision blurred with tears. My wolf whimpered weakly in my mind, as if even she could feel the weight of his cruel words. "You'll regret this, Thomas," I hissed through clenched teeth. My voice trembled, but fury rippled beneath it. "I will destroy you. Do you hear me? I will find a way." "Then I'd suggest doing it quickly," he replied, his tone colder than ice. Before I could scream further, the line went dead. I stared at the darkened phone screen, the room spinning around me. My chest heaved, my breaths erratic and shallow, my hand trembled violently as I gripped the device tighter, my knuckles white. With a sudden, sharp cry, I hurled the phone across the room. It smashed against the wall, the sound of shattering glass echoing through the suffocating silence. But it wasn't enough. Nothing was enough to quell the storm raging inside me. I curled on my side, clutching the blanket on the treatment bed. The silver's sharp, cruel fire rippled through my body, its agony unrelenting. Tears streamed down my face, and I choked on the sobs clawing their way out of my throat. I whispered, my voice breaking with every word, "Scarlett, this is your fault. All of it, your fault." The hallway outside Grace's room felt colder than usual. I paced back and forth, my hands trembling slightly as I squeezed them together. From inside, I could hear her muffled cries of pain. Each sound stabbed at me, but there was nothing I could do to help her. I paused, leaning a shoulder against the wall to steady myself. I rubbed my temples, the growing headache making it harder to think clearly. The weight pressing on my chest felt like it had doubled overnight. Then, like a dagger slicing through my already frayed nerves, Scarlett's voice cut through my thoughts. "Sarah?" she said, her tone level and cold. "The documents will arrive within the hour. Consider this your final notice. Our bonds are officially severed." I froze. My breath caught in my throat, and my heartbeat thundered in my ears. For a moment, I thought she was bluffing, but the steel in her voice told me otherwise. "No!" I shouted through the remnants of our pack bond. "No, Scarlett, you don't know what you're doing. You can't do this." Her response was immediate, controlled. "I know exactly what I'm doing, Sarah. I've delayed long enough." "Delayed?" I spat, rage flaring up like wildfire. "Is that what you call it? Delaying? All these years? All the sacrifices?" There were no sacrifices, she interjected sharply. Not on your part. Let's stop pretending you ever did anything for me. That ends today. It felt like the floor had shifted beneath me. I clenched my fists, my emotions spiraling between sorrow and fury. My wolf stirred uneasily, sensing the breaking point just ahead. You've always been reckless, I hissed, playing the only card I had left, her supposed wild nature. Do you think this new alpha of yours will tolerate it? Do you think the Shadow Organization will accept someone who tears through bonds so easily? Silence. It stretched long and oppressive, suffocating me with its finality. Goodbye, Sarah, Scarlett said simply. Then the bond shattered. I gasped audibly, clutching my chest as if I'd been physically struck. My knees buckled slightly, and I leaned heavily against the wall, trying to catch my breath. The pain wasn't just emotional, it was physical, rooted deep in my soul. My wolf howled mournfully inside me, her cries echoing endlessly through the hollow space where the bond used to be. Scarlett, I whispered, my voice breaking, but it was useless. She was gone. The sound of footsteps broke through the haze of my despair. I looked up to see Alexander and Daniel approaching. Their faces were drawn, their expressions tense. I could barely speak. She's gone. I forced out, my words trembling with disbelief. Alexander frowned deeply, his jaw clenching. Gone? She severed the bond, I choked out, my hands fisting the fabric of my blouse. A part of me wanted to scream, to demand answers, but all I could feel was the empty ache of loss. And you let it happen? Daniel's tone was accusatory, but it lacked conviction. He looked as lost as I felt. I glared at him, my sorrow giving way to irritation. Let it happen. What do you think I could have done? She's not the same Scarlett anymore. She's tied to that cursed alpha. Enough, Alexander snapped, his voice sharp. For a moment, even I flinched. He leaned against the wall beside me, his hand running through his disheveled hair. We knew this was coming, he muttered, though his tone was hollow. We just didn't want to admit it. I shook my head, my anger bubbling over. We underestimated her. Yes, but do you think we're powerless? Because we're not. My voice wavered, but I refused to let it break completely. And what do you expect us to do? Daniel shot back. His tone held the faintest edge of frustration. My jaw tightened. He wouldn't understand. Neither of them would. Before any of us could say more, a sudden noise startled us. Fine. The sharp, desperate shout pierced through the closed door of Grace's room. The raw anger in her voice sent chills down my spine. Then we'll both face the Territory Council's judgment. The three of us froze in place, our gazes locking onto the door as her words hung heavily in the air. Chapter 82, Deadly Secrets. The room felt suffocating. The walls seemed to close in, making each breath harder to take. Sweat trickled down my temple as I lay on the treatment bed, staring at Sarah, Alexander, and Daniel. Their faces were etched with something I had never seen before, distrust mixed with disbelief. Sarah paced at the foot of my bed with frantic, uneven steps. She wrung her hands together, her lips trembling as if trying to form words that wouldn't come. Alexander stood near the window, rigid as a stone, his good arm resting tensely against the windowsill. His eyes never left me. And Daniel was leaning against the door, arms crossed, staring at me like he was trying to dig into my very soul. I gulped. My throat felt dry. Every movement sent searing pain through my body, the silver poison burning its way deeper with every second. I felt trapped by my condition, by their questions, and by their judgmental stares. Finally, Alexander spoke, his voice sharp and biting. Who was on the phone? His question was short, but it carried all the weight of his rising anger. Each word hit me like a lash. I blinked, my mouth opening, but no words came out at first. I needed to think. Quickly. Grace, he snapped again, this time louder. Who you talking to? He took a step closer, his amber eyes narrowing. My heart pounded in panic, each beat loud in my ears. It was just a desperate man, I mumbled weakly, my voice trembling even though I tried to steady it. Someone trying to extort me. Extort you? Daniel's sharp voice joined in as he moved away from the door. His eyes darkened. Why would anyone extort you, Grace? What in the world do you have to offer anyone? Or should I ask, what did you do? His words were dripping with suspicion, each syllable more accusatory than the last. I squirmed under their intense gazes, feeling like prey in a room full of predators. My body burned from the inside, but the tension in the air was no less unbearable. "I didn't do anything," I protested weakly, my voice cracking. Sarah stopped pacing and turned to me. Her eyes were watery, filled with confusion and something much worse: doubt. She looked like a mother who had just caught her child lying but wanted to disbelieve it. "Grace," she whispered, her voice shaky, "you need to tell us what's going on. Who is this man? Who is Thomas?" Hearing his name spoken aloud sent a jolt of fear through me. My hands gripped the blanket tightly, the fabric bunching under my fingers. "I told you, he's just some man trying to take advantage of my situation." Alexander didn't buy it. His jaw tightened, and his teeth clenched audibly. His casted arm hung stiffly by his side, while his good hand balled into a fist. "A man doesn't just ask for payments in the millions for nothing," he said, his voice low and grave. "Stop lying, Grace." Those words hit me hard. My stomach churned, anxiety choking me like a rope around my throat. "Alexander, please," I pleaded, trying to sound pitiful. "You have to believe me. I don't know why this is happening." "You're lying." Daniel's voice was like a whip against my already frayed nerves. He crossed his arms, glowering at me. "If there's nothing to hide, why would you react like this? Why does your voice tremble every time we bring it up? Why are you... My lips quivered. My voice dropped to almost a whisper. "I don't have the strength for this right now." "Liar!" Daniel barked, his anger boiling over. "Daniel, stop!" Sarah interjected, her own voice rising. She stepped toward my bed and held up her hands as though trying to shield me. "She's in pain. Look at her. She's seriously ill." Alexander's expression didn't soften. He wasn't buying it. His eyes drilled into mine, pinning me down harder than the pain of the poison ever could. "Pain doesn't excuse guilt," he said coldly. I could feel my breaths coming in short, shallow gasps. My fingers trembled as I grasped onto the blanket. "Why don't you trust me?" I whispered hoarsely, tears edging my eyes. "Haven't I gone through enough already?" "Trust you?" Alexander's bitter laugh sent a chill down my spine. He turned away for a moment, his hands resting on his hips as though trying to control himself. Then he turned back, his voice calm but deadly. "You've been hiding something, Grace. You've been lying this whole time, haven't you?" The room seemed to spin. I felt trapped, like a bird caught in a snare. My head pounded as I tried to think of anything that could salvage this. "If you're innocent," Daniel chimed in again, his voice grating against my nerves, "you won't mind telling us everything we need to know about these payments." I shook my head violently, my pulse thundering in panic. No. You're twisting everything. You never believe me." Sarah's trembling voice joined the fray. "Grace, this only gets worse if you don't tell the truth." "I am telling the truth," I screamed, my voice raw. My wolf whimpered painfully in my mind, barely audible through the agony ripping through me. "You're hiding something," Alexander shouted, slamming his fist on the edge of the bed. The sound made me flinch. His sharp amber gaze bore into me, unrelenting. "Who is Thomas Ward, Grace? What does he have on you?" I opened my mouth to answer, but no words came. My throat constricted, and my vision started blurring as panic ate away at my composure. Sarah stepped forward again, her face pale, her own tremors visible. Then something in her eyes changed, and her expression twisted into one of horror. "The crystals," she murmured faintly, like the realization was hitting her all at once. Her trembling hand went to her mouth. "The sacred crystals, Grace." A chill washed over me head to toe. My body froze. "The sacred vault," Sarah continued, her voice breaking. "The rare healing crystals, the ones that went missing last week." Her tone grew louder and sharper with each word. "No," I whispered, shaking my head. "No, you're wrong. I didn't. Did you take them?" She yelled, her voice finally cracking in desperation. Her words echoed in the room like a thunderclap. All eyes were on me. The weight of their stares was unbearable. My heart felt like it would burst from my chest. I couldn't breathe. Even the poison blazing through me seemed distant compared to the dread building in my stomach. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, frozen as I watched the feed on the monitor. Grace's treatment room was descending into chaos. Sarah's desperate pacing, Daniel's scorn-filled stare, Alexander's rage, so sharp and cutting, it practically seeped through the screen. And Grace. Grace was the picture of someone who realized their world had started to. I could see it in her trembling hands and the way her lips moved soundlessly for answers that wouldn't come. She wasn't just weak from the poison. She was terrified. This wasn't just about missing crystals or a suspicious phone call. It was a truth buried so deep that even Grace had come to fear its exposure. Shaking off the unease settling in my chest, I grabbed the phone from the desk and dialed Roman's number. The sound of the ringing was deafening in the otherwise silent room. "Claire," Roman's calm but hard tone came through after the second ring. His unshakable presence settled me slightly. "Roman," I began, my voice barely above a whisper, but I quickly steadied myself. "It's about Grace." There was a pause, a tense silence that seemed almost heavier than the one in the treatment room I watched. "What happened?" Roman's voice was cold, sharp as ice. "I overheard, well, the security feed caught it," I corrected myself quickly. She was talking to Thomas Ward. I heard Roman's sharp inhale, though his response was as steady as ever. "She was panicking," I continued. My words spilled out quickly now. "Thomas was demanding something. He said something about covering up what she did to Scarlett 3 years ago. Roman, it all lines up. Scarlett was right about Grace. Every single thing." The line went silent again except for his breathing. Each drawn-out second felt more oppressive. When he finally spoke, his voice carried a weight that would crush mountains. "Good," he said simply. "Let her crumble under her lies. Keep watching. Everything is unfolding exactly as it should." "Yes, Alpha." I placed the receiver down gently, my fingers shaky. I turned back to the monitor just in time to see Grace finally crumple into tears, her body convulsing with sobs under the weight of her lies and the poison tearing through her veins. Her scream echoed through the speakers, and I knew this was far, far from over. Chapter 83, Deadly Deceptions. The dim lighting in the healing chamber did little to mask the suffocating atmosphere. My veins burned like liquid fire coursed through them, every pulse of silver poisoning draining what little strength I had. I lay on the bed, gripping the sheets tightly as Sarah and Daniel stood by, their faces shadowed with suspect. Sarah's voice broke the silence, trembling as she paced in front of me. "Grace, we need to talk. Something isn't adding up about the missing crystals." My mind raced, trying to conjure a believable story. My body was weak, but my mind had no choice but to stay sharp. I think the rogues took them," I gasped, forcing my voice to sound weak and strained. "There were sightings near the sacred vault. I was too sick to stop them." I shot Sarah a desperate look, watching her expression soften immediately. Of course she wouldn't question me, not her perfect daughter, not when I was suffering like this. Her maternal instincts blinded her entirely, just as I'd hoped. Daniel, however, was harder to convince. He frowned, crossing his arms as he stared at me. His piercing gaze felt like it was trying to strip away my lies. "Rogues?" he asked skeptically. "The sacred vault is heavily guarded. How could they manage to get in unnoticed?" I stammered, racking my mind for something, anything that would hold up. It must have been an inside job, right? There's no other explanation. Someone must be helping them. Daniel's eyes narrowed, his suspicion clear. But Sarah interrupted him before he could press further. "Grace is in no condition to be interrogated," she snapped, shooting him an angry glare. "She's sick enough as it is. We don't need to burden her with this right now." Grateful for Sarah's intervention, I forced my body to lean back against the pillows, trembling dramatically. "I wish I could do more," I whispered, tears pooling in my eyes for effect. "I feel so powerless." Daniel opened his mouth to retort, but Sarah cut him off again. "Enough, Daniel. Grace needs rest, not accusations." Daniel sighed heavily, his reluctance to yield evident. With a curt nod, he finally relented. "I have business to handle," he muttered, turning on his heel and walking briskly toward the chamber door. The look in his eyes before he left told me he didn't fully believe me. But it didn't matter. Sarah, as ever, stood firmly in my corner. No one else's opinion mattered. I let out a shaky breath, the burning in my veins a cruel reminder of the ticking clock against me. I couldn't afford to slip up again. The corridor leading to the healing chamber was narrow and dimly lit, the faint scent of medicinal herbs lingering in the air. Hunter walked closely behind me, his usual watchful presence a silent shield against the chaos brewing around us. Just outside the chamber, a familiar figure appeared, stepping out briskly from the door. Alexander. His eyes locked onto mine immediately, and his expression darkened. His posture exuded frustration and barely restrained aggression. My stomach tightened, but I refused to show any reaction. "Scarlett," he barked, his voice flat yet sharp enough to cut through the air. I stopped mid-step, arching an eyebrow. "Alexander, what do you want now?" Instead of answering, he closed the distance between us in 3 long strides, his hand darting out to grab my wrist. His grip was firm, not enough to hurt, but enough to make my skin crawl. "The legal documents," he hissed, his dark eyes flashing with anger. "They're real, aren't they? You're really severing your ties to the pack." I tilted my head, giving him a deliberately cold smile. "You catch on quickly." His grip tightened. "You think you can just turn your back on everything? Break all ties like it's nothing?" My emerald eyes narrowed as I leaned slightly closer. "You did the same to me a long time ago, Alexander. You just didn't realize it then." Hunter stepped forward in an instant, his strong hand grabbing Alexander's arm and pulling it off me. "Release her," he ordered, his tone dangerously low. For a moment, it looked like Alexander might retaliate, but the unspoken threat in Hunter's gaze made him hesitate. Slowly, he let go of my wrist, but his fury remained palpable. "This isn't over," Alexander growled, his voice trembling with frustration. I smirked, folding my arms. "Do you really want another broken arm to match the one Roman gave you?" At the mention of Roman, I saw Alexander flinch. His face twisted in a mixture of anger and humiliation. "Think carefully before you act," I added, my voice dripping with ice. "You're not as untouchable as you like to think." With that, I turned on my heel, with Hunter by my side as we walked away. The weight of Alexander's glare bore into my back, but I didn't look back. Back at the car, Hunter glanced at me as I buckled my seatbelt. "You handled that well," he remarked. I sighed, leaning back against the seat, for now. As the car pulled away, I stared out the window, my mind already racing ahead. "Hunter," I began, turning to him, "I need you to investigate something for me." His eyes flicked toward me briefly before returning to the road. "What is it?" "The missing healing crystals," I said, my tone firm. "They were no doubt stolen by Grace for Thomas Ward. She's lying through her teeth, and I want to know where they really went." Hunter nodded curtly, his expression hardening. "Consider it done." I leaned back again, watching the trees blur past as we drove. Grace thought she could manipulate everyone around her, but she was about to learn just how wrong she was. Later that evening, I sat by the large windows of the seaside mansion, staring out at the dark waves crashing against the shore. The calmness of the ocean felt distant, like a mocking contrast to the storm brewing in my life. My phone buzzed on the table beside me. I glanced at the screen. Roman. I picked up, unable to suppress the small smile that tugged at my lips. "Roman, have you eaten?" His voice was gentle, laced with concern. My smile faltered slightly. "I'm fine, Roman. You don't have to keep checking on me." "You're not invincible, Scarlett," he countered, his tone soft but firm. "Take care of yourself." I sighed, a mix of annoyance and warmth filling me. "I'll eat, all right? Don't worry." Before I could say more, another call buzzed in. I frowned, glancing at the name flashing on the screen. Alexander. "Roman, hold on. I have another call," I muttered, switching over reluctantly. "Scarlett," Alexander's voice came through, strained and agitated. I didn't bother hiding my irritation. "What now, Alexander?" "I want to buy the seaside mansion," he said abruptly, his desperation evident. "Name your price." I raised an eyebrow, leaning back in my chair. "And why would I sell it to you?" His voice tightened. "I know it ties back to him, to Roman. Don't deny it." I couldn't help the laugh that escaped me, a sharp, mocking sound. "Honestly, Alexander, your obsession with my protector is getting embarrassing. He's none of your concern." "Scarlett, this isn't a game," he snapped. "You don't understand what's at stake." I leaned forward, my tone cutting. "Oh, I understand perfectly, and let me tell you this. I prefer my mysterious protector to your mess of a situation any day." The silence on the other end of the line was deafening. Chapter 84, Desperate Claims. I paced back and forth in my study, the phone pressed tightly against my ear. My frustration was simmering just beneath the surface. Scarlett's voice on the line didn't help. It was sharp, cold, and full of defiance. "Is it true?" I demanded, my knuckles turning white as I gripped the phone harder. "About the owner of the beachfront mansion? A 60-year-old werewolf?" Scarlett's laughter cut through me like a blade. It wasn't warm or kind. It was biting, mocking, meant to slice through every last shred of my patience. "Yes, that's true," she replied casually. "Why? Are you curious about my business dealings now, Alexander? Funny how you didn't care 3 years ago." I clenched my jaw, trying to keep my voice steady. "You're deliberately being vague. There has to be more to it than that. You're hiding something." "My affairs are none of your concern anymore," she shot back without hesitation. Her words hit like a slap to the face. "You gave up that right the moment you chose Grace over me." "Scarlett, you don't understand. Goodbye, Alexander." The line went dead with a sharp click. I stared at the phone, my breath coming fast and hard. My fingers tightened around the device as though I could summon her back just by holding on tighter. But she was gone. She always walked away when it came to me. I stood frozen for what felt like minutes, my mind swirling with unanswered questions. The phone vibrated in my grip again, pulling me back. Sarah's name lit up the screen. "Alexander!" Her voice spilled through the phone, frantic and filled with panic. "Grace is gone. She disappeared from the healing room." "What?" The word left me in a rush. My blood turned cold. "How could that happen?" "I don't know." Sarah's voice wavered. I could feel her fear through the line. "I only left for a moment to grab her medicine, and when I came back she was gone. She can't even shift properly. Where could she have gone?" I didn't waste another second. "I'll find her," I said sharply. "Stay there. Check the grounds. I'm on my way." The night air was crisp, yet somehow it did little to calm the fire raging under my skin. My boots pounded against the pack grounds as I followed what little scent trail Grace had left behind. It was faint, nearly smothered by other lingering scents, but it was there. The trail led me to the Moonstone Garden, the area glowing with its faint, ethereal light. My heart sank when I spotted her lying there, surrounded by the shimmering stones. "Grace!" I dropped to my knees beside her without hesitation. She was a mess. Her body trembled, her skin deathly pale and visibly streaked with the silver-tainted veins. Her form flickered in and out like an unstable image, part human, part wolf. Her breath was ragged, weak. Even her eyes struggled to fully open when she heard my voice. "Alexander." Her voice was cracked, barely audible. "What were you thinking?" I said, my voice sharp as I slid my arms beneath her fragile frame. She was light, too light. It felt like I was holding a fragile bird, one wrong move away from breaking her completely. She tried to smile, but it was pitiful. I had to. Try to find him. "Find who?" My tone turned colder. I had a guess, but I didn't want to believe it. "Thomas." She coughed weakly, curling slightly in pain. Her words confirmed my worst suspicion. My fear quickly transformed into anger. "Thomas Ward?" I couldn't keep the accusation from my voice. "Are you insane? Do you have any idea what he could have done to you?" Her hands gripped weakly at my shirt, her fingers trembling against the fabric. "I couldn't stay," she gasped, her words coming out in fragmented whispers. "The room, the scent of those herbs. It reminds me I'm dying, Alexander." Her tears fell, streaking her silver-tainted face. My anger dissipated the moment I saw her in so much pain. Sarah's hurried footsteps broke through the silence, and she arrived by my side holding a bundle of healing herbs. Her eyes widened in horror when she saw Grace's condition. "Bring her back to the room," Sarah ordered frantically, already preparing to turn back to the healing den. "I'll get everything ready." "No." Grace's weak voice stopped us. She clutched at my shirt tighter, breaking into shaking sobs. "Please, not back there." I looked at her, at how broken she was, and my heart twisted painfully. It was the first time her wolf flickered another faint whine under her skin. Even her wolf was slipping away faster than I'd imagined. I can't die in that room." Her sobs racked her thin frame as if they would tear her apart. I don't want to die trapped in there. Alexander, please, don't let me stay there. I cradled her closer, feeling the weight of her plea press down on me like a vice. I hated seeing her like this, so fragile and defeated, so unlike the Grace I once knew. I'll arrange for something better, I promised softly, brushing some of the burnt silver strands from her face. Her hair, once her pride, fell away like ash under my touch. Her form flickered again, the resemblance of a wolf barely holding together before fading back into her human state. Her sobs quieted only slightly as I whispered again. I'll find somewhere safer, I said, my voice both soft and firm. You'll be somewhere peaceful within the week. I won't let this silver poison define your end. But deep in my heart, I knew this promise, like so many others, was built on borrowed time. I tossed my phone on the desk, letting out a heavy sigh. Talking to Alexander was always draining, but this call had been particularly irritating. The desperation in his voice was almost pathetic now. Turning around, I was startled to see Roman leaning casually against the wall, his arms crossed over his chest. His piercing ice-blue eyes watched me closely, amusement dancing in their depths. I groaned inwardly. He must have overheard my conversation. Let me guess, Roman started, a teasing smirk pulling at his lips. Talking about your newfound interest in older werewolves, are we? I shot him an exasperated look, feeling my cheeks heat slightly under his gaze. I had to tell him something, I muttered defensively. It seemed like the easiest way to throw him off the trail. Interesting tactic, he remarked, his smirk growing wider, though I can't say I understand the appeal of a 60-year-old. Very funny, Roman, I shot back, folding my arms as I raised an eyebrow. You can stop teasing me now, you know that wasn't the point. His amusement didn't waver. True, but I find it hard to believe you'd go so far just to protect me. I rolled my eyes and took a step closer to him, tilting my head with a small smirk of my own. Only protecting you? Roman, haven't you heard? I'm quite fond of older wolves, at least one in particular. His expression shifted immediately, the teasing vanishing as something darker flickered in his icy gaze. I felt Logan, his wolf, stirring just beneath the surface. His presence was a heavy weight in the room now, filling the space with a possessive edge. Careful, he said in a low voice, his smirk now long gone. You know better than to provoke me, Scarlett. I made the mistake of smiling wider as though I welcomed his challenge. Provoke you, or entice you. Before I could process his next move, his arms were around me, pulling me flush against him. His grip was firm but steady, his closeness sending shivers down my spine. His lips brushed against my ear, his voice quiet but intense. You're playing with fire, little wolf. His words sent Cora, my wolf, into a frenzy beneath my skin. She howled her approval, eager for the chaos that Roman brought wherever he went. But it wasn't just Cora who responded to him. It was me. Roman wasn't like Alexander or anyone else. He was my past, my protector, my forbidden tether. When his lips claimed mine, I didn't pull away. His kiss was possessive, demanding, and utterly intoxicating. I melted into him, my hands gripping his shirt, as though it was the only thing holding me to the ground. Chapter 85, Protective Possession. Roman's lips were relentless, his hands firm but gentle as they anchored me closer against him. His kiss was consuming, like he was trying to claim every breath, every ounce of restraint I had left. For a moment, it felt like time itself had stopped, the world outside us forgotten entirely. His hand slid into my hair, fingers threading through the strands as he tilted my head slightly, deepening the kiss. My pulse hammered in my chest. Every nerve in my body was alive, ignited by the intensity of his touch. When he finally pulled back, his piercing ice-blue eyes locked onto mine, his lips still so close that I could feel the heat of his breath, curved into the faintest of smirks. Not avoiding me today, little wolf, he murmured, his low voice carrying a teasing edge that sent a shiver down my spine. I took a slow, steadying breath, willing my thoughts to clear. His proximity made every coherent thought I had scatter like leaves in the wind. I was never avoiding you. My voice was calm, though my chest still heaved from losing myself in that kiss. I just thought you needed time. Time to think about this, about us. His smirk faded, replaced by a look so intense it rooted me to the spot. Time to think? He repeated, his brows furrowing. Little wolf, You're the one who hasn't been thinking. I've made my decision long ago." "Roman," I tried, but he cut me off with a firm gaze, his voice soft yet unyielding. "Have you? Have you really?" I opened my mouth, then hesitated. His words struck something deep within me. Had I truly allowed myself to think about what this meant for us? About what it could cost? "I needed to be sure," I finally admitted, barely louder than a whisper. "Sure that we're not just reacting, that this is real, that you won't regret it." His hand cupped my cheek, his thumb brushing against my skin. It was a tender, protective gesture, so unlike his usual ironclad control. "I don't regret anything about you," he said simply. His words were steady, certain. "The only thing I'd regret is letting you waste another second doubting this, doubting us." His certainty made my chest tighten, a lump forming in my throat. I hadn't realized how deeply I needed to hear those words until he said them. I swallowed hard, mustering the courage to meet his gaze. "When are we leaving?" I asked, my voice trembling slightly. Confusion flickered across his face. "Leaving?" "For the Eastern Territories," I clarified. "When are we going back?" "I don't know how much longer I can stand being here in this mess." At that, his expression darkened just slightly, a shadow of thoughtfulness crossing his features. "There are still things that need handling here," he admitted reluctantly. "Loose ends I need tied." But after a small, rare smile ghosted over his lips, "After I'm taking you home." His mention of loose ends made my heart sink slightly, though I tried not to show it. I knew exactly what he meant. Grace, Sarah, Alexander, the tangled web of deceit and manipulation we'd been forced into. None of it could be ignored. I let out a weary sigh, resting my head gently against his chest. "I don't know how much more of this I can take," I confessed, my voice barely audible. "The scheming, the lies, the endless games they play. It's exhausting." His arms tightened around me slightly, a silent reassurance. "You don't have to deal with any of it," he said firmly. "That's my job, and Hunter's." I lifted my head to meet his gaze, determination flashing in my green eyes. "What kind of mate would I be if I let you and Hunter carry it all?" "I can fight my own battles, Roman." His sharp features softened, and he leaned closer until our foreheads touched. "You don't have to fight alone anymore," he whispered. "Let me fight for you, little wolf, just this once." The following days were a blur of work and tension. At the treatment center, I threw myself into patient care, the structured routine a welcome distraction. Yet every moment seemed haunted by reminders of the chaos surrounding us. Sarah, predictably, continued evading the legal documents. She refused to officially sever the pack bond, clinging to an illusion of control she no longer had. I'd stopped expecting cooperation from her, yet her resistance still grated on my nerves. Meanwhile, Hunter made steady progress in his investigation. He uncovered records, meticulously detailed transaction logs between Grace and Thomas Ward, perfectly preserved evidence of her past manipulations and alliances. Each new detail only added fuel to the fire within me. Grace, however, seemed determined to push every one of my buttons. Her messages persisted, filled with smug little boasts designed to provoke me. "Alexander agreed to my request," one particular text read. "Soon, I'll be moving into your mansion. Finally, I'll have the peace and space I deserve." My response was curt. "Congratulations. Nothing more, nothing less. Let her stew in that." I wouldn't give her the satisfaction of reacting. This morning started like any other. Roman watched me closely over breakfast, his gaze a mixture of concern and quiet intensity. I could feel him studying me, even as I focused on my plate. "You've been working too hard," he finally said. I looked up, raising an eyebrow. "I'm fine. You've said that before, and last time you ended up collapsing from stomach pain," he reminded me, his tone unwavering. His sharp gaze pinned me in place, making it clear he wasn't going to let this go easily. I exhaled, half annoyed but also oddly touched by his overprotectiveness. "I've grown up, Roman," I teased lightly, hoping to ease his worries. "You don't need to hover like you used to." He didn't respond immediately, though the faintest smirk tugged at the corner of his mouth. "Doesn't mean I'll stop." After finishing breakfast, Roman offered to drive me to the treatment center. The car ride was peaceful, the surrounding trees blurring into shades of green and gold as we sped past. The quiet was broken when Roman's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen briefly before answering. "Hunter," he greeted, his voice sharp and professional. "Alpha," Hunter's steady voice filled the car. "There's movement. Alexander and Nathan Black are pushing forward with plans for a tribal alliance meeting. I think they're trying to rebuild momentum." Roman's jaw tightened visibly. "And Grace?" "She's insisting on leaving the sanatorium," Hunter informed him. "But her condition is worsening. If she forces herself out, she might not last much longer." I frowned, gripping the seat slightly. Roman's calm exterior didn't waver, though his silence spoke volumes. "What do you want done?" Hunter asked, breaking the brief silence. "Keep watch," Roman ordered firmly. "Report back with any new developments. And keep an eye on Nathan Black." Hunter hesitated briefly before adding, "Speaking of Nathan Black, he's waiting in Scarlett's office. Reports say he doesn't seem aggressive this time." That caught my attention immediately. I turned to Roman, searching his expression for some sign of what he was thinking. He glanced at me briefly, his icy gaze unreadable. "I'll handle it if you want," he offered. I shook my head, determination setting into my features. "No, it's my center. I'll deal with him myself." Walking into my office, I immediately felt a shift in the room's energy. Nathan Black sat stiffly in the chair opposite my desk. His usual commanding presence was subdued, replaced by something almost hesitant. His broad shoulders were slightly hunched, and he tapped his fingers against the armrest rhythmically. When he noticed me enter, he stood. His towering frame still exuded strength, but his demeanor was uncharacteristically cautious. "Scarlett," he greeted, his voice lacking its usual edge. "Thank you for seeing me." I crossed the room calmly, taking my seat behind the desk. My hands folded neatly in front of me as I regarded him coolly. "Nathan, this is unexpected." He hesitated for a moment as if weighing his words carefully. "I needed to speak with you," he said slowly. I raised an eyebrow. "Speak about what?" His eyes met mine, and I noticed a flicker of discomfort, an unusual thing for someone like Nathan Black. "About the alliances," he began, his tone more measured than I'd ever heard before. "And," I prompted, keeping my voice steady. He shifted in his seat, the faintest trace of unease crossing his features. "And about the truths I've discovered regarding your connections, regarding Roman and the Shadow Organization." Chapter 86, Desperate Alliances, Scarlett's POV. "I want to start by making amends, Scarlett," Nathan said as he reached into his pocket. His movements were precise, but I caught the unease in his eyes. It was subtle, but it was there, like someone trying to hide desperation under a calm exterior. From his pocket, he pulled out an amulet. It shimmered faintly in the room's light, the black moonstone at its center catching a flicker of my reflection. The craftsmanship was intricate, almost overly detailed, with silver etchings curling around the stone like vines. He set it on the table between us, the sound quiet but deliberate. "What's this?" I asked, eyeing the object with suspicion. Nathan leaned back slightly. "It's an ancient amulet passed down in my pack for generations. It's said to protect its owner from betrayal and misfortune. I've never parted with it before, but I want you to have it." I raised an eyebrow, my instincts instantly on high alert. People like Nathan Blake didn't give away something precious without expecting something in return. "It's my apology," he continued, his voice tight. "An apology for Sophie's behavior at the Territory Council. She overstepped her bounds, and her actions disrupted the relationship we've been building." I reached forward, picking up the amulet. It was heavier than I expected, the weight oddly uncomforting. I turned it over in my hand, inspecting the delicate silver etching as I thought over his words. "And you think this," I said, holding it up slightly, "will fix things?" Nathan flinched, though it was barely perceptible. He shifted in his seat. "It's more than just an object," he argued. "This amulet is sacred to my pack. Offering it to you isn't a small gesture. I thought it might show our sincerity." I stared at the amulet for another moment before setting it back on the table. The sound of metal meeting wood rang louder than I anticipated. "Nathan," I said slowly, locking eyes with him, "Roman's not the kind of man who's impressed by gestures like this. He doesn't care about trinkets, no matter how symbolic they might be. What he wants is results, real, tangible results." A flicker of frustration crossed Nathan's face. He exhaled deeply, leaning forward. Scarlett, I'm not trying to manipulate anyone. I'm trying to salvage what's left. Sophie's actions destroyed any progress I'd made, and if I don't fix this soon, my pack's alliance with the Shadow Organization may never recover. There it was. The truth laid bare. Nathan wasn't here to apologize for Sophie. He was here to save his own position, his own pack. My voice hardened, my patience thinning. Then you should be addressing the deeper issues in your pack, not giving me things that you think will sway me. This amulet won't undo what Sophie did. It won't change how Roman sees you. Nathan's jaw tightened. He looked away briefly, the tension in his posture increasing. I know Sophie's betrayal made things worse, he said, fighting to keep his voice even. But Roman's reaction? He hesitated, searching for the right words. It was unexpected. His protectiveness over you? It caught me off guard. I stiffened slightly, my mind flashing to Roman's unyielding cold presence. That protectiveness Nathan spoke of, it ran deep, but it wasn't something I needed to explain. Nathan worked his jaw as if wrestling with his pride. Scarlett, he said, his voice softer now, almost pleading, you know Roman better than anyone. Perhaps you can help him see reason. I folded my arms, narrowing my gaze. What exactly are you asking me to do? Ask him to reconsider, Nathan said quickly, a spark of hope lighting his eyes. Tell him my pack is still willing to negotiate, that we can still rebuild this alliance. I studied him for a moment. His desperation was clear, but so was the weight of his words. Despite his flaws, Nathan was serious about saving what was left. Still, this wasn't a decision I could or wanted to make alone. I'll call him, I said finally, my tone firm. But don't expect a miracle, Nathan. Roman doesn't change his mind easily. Relief flashed across his features, though it was quickly tempered by nervousness. He nodded, sitting straighter. I picked up my phone, feeling its familiar weight in my hands as I dialed Roman's number. I switched it to speaker, glancing at Nathan as the call connected. Scarlett? Roman's voice came through the line, deep and steady. It's me, I said, my voice softening slightly. I wanted to ask your opinion on something. There was a pause. I could almost picture him frowning on the other end. Go on. It's about Nathan Blake, I said carefully. The silence that followed was deafening, left Nathan visibly tensed beside me, his hands gripping the edge of the chair. When Roman finally spoke, his tone was sharper than before. Why are you asking about him? I hesitated, choosing my next words carefully. He's here to discuss the alliance with the Shadow Organization. He's trying to repair the damage Sophie caused. Another pause. And what does this have to do with you? Roman's voice was cold now, laced with suspicion. My grip on the phone tightened. It's just politics, Roman, I said quickly. He wanted my perspective. I thought I should run it by you. Roman's reply was immediate, his voice low and dangerous. Have you developed an interest in him, Scarlett? My eyes widened, heat rushing to my cheeks. What? No. Of course not. Nathan shifted uncomfortably in his seat as Roman's tone grew colder. It's a simple question, Roman said, his words cutting. I want to make sure you aren't wasting your time or mine. I'm not, I snapped, my frustration spilling over. This has nothing to do with personal interest, Roman. It's about your alliances, nothing more. For a moment, the line went silent again. Then Roman's voice came through, sharp and resolute. Nathan Blake is untrustworthy. Nathan flinched visibly at Roman's words, his shoulders hunching slightly. He can't even control his own pack members, Roman continued coldly. Sophie's actions were more than a mistake. They revealed a weakness in his leadership, and I don't tolerate weak alphas. I glanced at Nathan, whose expression had darkened considerably. His hands clenched into fists, though he remained silent. Roman's voice softened slightly as he addressed me directly. I'll meet you for dinner. We'll discuss this further then. With that, the call ended. Nathan stared at the phone, his face a mixture of frustration and defeat. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Well, I said. Breaking the silence, you heard him. Nathan exhaled sharply, rubbing his temple. So that's it? He said bitterly. Because of Sophie, my entire pack is condemned? I straightened in my seat, meeting his gaze. No, I corrected firmly. Your pack is being judged because Sophie acted out. Roman sees that as a failure of your leadership. Nathan shot me an incredulous look. Leadership? Do you really think an entire alliance should hinge on one member's actions? I didn't hesitate. Yes, because it's more than just one action, Nathan. It's a reflection of your control, or lack of it. If you can't maintain discipline in your pack, why would Roman trust you as an ally? Nathan's jaw tightened. He leaned forward, his voice rising slightly. That's not fair, Scarlett. Packs aren't perfect, and neither are alphas. Mistakes happen. That doesn't make us weak. Then prove it, I said, narrowing my eyes. Show Roman and everyone else that you can keep your pack in line. Until then, you're asking for trust you haven't earned. Nathan leaned back in his chair, frustration evident in his tense posture. He ran a hand through his hair, his lips pressed into a thin line. After a moment, he sighed heavily, his tone softening. How did Roman's pack handle things with you, he asked, compared to how the Winters treated you? His words struck a nerve. My hands clenched into fists, memories I'd long buried surfacing unbidden. Don't, I said sharply, my voice brimming with warning. Nathan raised his hands in a placating gesture. I wasn't trying to. You don't get to compare them, I snapped, cutting him off. The Thorn Pack raised me, protected me, gave me a place to belong. The Winters? They abandoned me. They chose Grace over their own daughter. My voice wavered slightly, but I pushed through. Don't talk about them like they're the same. They're not. Nathan looked genuinely remorseful. He leaned forward, his tone careful. I'm sorry, he said quietly. I didn't mean it like that. I understand now why you stand by Roman's pack. Chapter 87, Alliance Negotiations. Scarlett's P. Nathan hesitated, his usually confident and composed demeanor faltering for the first time. His dark eyes reflected an unspoken question, the kind he wasn't sure he should even voice aloud. I've noticed how highly you value Roman and the Thorn Pack, he began carefully, as though testing how much he could push. It doesn't make sense to me. Why would someone as capable and respected as you choose to walk away from that kind of safety and security? My fingers gripped the edge of the desk tightly, my nails pressing into the cold surface. His words brought back memories I'd shoved deep down, memories of choices I wished I'd never been forced to make. I had my reasons, I replied sharply, my tone like a blade. Nathan didn't back down, though I saw him hesitate. So it wasn't your choice then? What could force someone like you? Enough. My words came out as a snap, cutting him off mid-sentence. My emerald eyes locked onto his with a flash of anger. You have no idea what happened back then, and you don't get to dig into it like it's your business. He held his hands up slightly in mock surrender, but his tone grew quieter. I'm not trying to pry for the sake of it. You're someone people talk about in whispers. They know you're important to Roman, but no one knows why you left the Thorn Pack. I left, I said sharply, each word charged with anger, because staying would have made things worse for Roman. The Morrison family was breathing down our necks, and they would have used me to get to him. I wouldn't let that happen. End of story. A flicker of understanding passed over his features, but it didn't soften his pointed curiosity. So, you left to protect him, Nathan muttered, partly to himself. That's why Roman is so protective of you. I sat back, crossing my arms tightly. Are you satisfied now, or do you have more pointless questions lined up? Nathan studied me carefully, his brow furrowing as if something I'd said confirmed a hunch he'd been forming. You don't trust people easily, do you? He asked with quiet observance. No, I said flatly, and you're a prime example of why I shouldn't. His mouth opened slightly, as if he were about to argue, but he let the remark pass. It's not just idle curiosity, he said instead, his tone shifting. Northern packs, including mine, have noticed how Roman defends you. Wolves here are scrambling for shadow organization alliances, and you're central to the rumors. I tilted my head slightly, amusement flickering through my icy glare. Scrambling? Are we talking about Alexander now? Nathan frowned, but didn't deny it. Not just him. Every pack here knows what an alliance with the shadow organization could mean, and Roman's interest in you. He paused, choosing his words carefully. It makes them think gaining your favor could bridge the gap. Some think you're the shortcut. A sharp laugh escaped me, cold and unrelenting. Tell them to stop wasting their time, I said, shaking my head. Roman doesn't make decisions based on me. He turns to strength, loyalty, and discipline to choose who he supports. None of those traits are in abundance around here. Nathan exhaled slowly, shaking his head as if weighing my words. So, you're saying my approach is flawed too? I smirked faintly, my anger cooling slightly. I didn't say that, but since you've brought it up, yes, your approach is flawed. Focus less on appealing to me and more on fixing what's broken in your pack. That's where Roman's attention will land, not on gestures or backdoor bargains. Something flickered in Nathan's expression, maybe guilt or regret. He leaned forward slightly, no longer defensive but contemplative. By fixing what's broken, you mean Sophie, don't you? I didn't react outwardly, though I could tell the name alone made his voice tighten. I mean what she represents, I corrected. An alpha can't rely on authority alone. Your pack's loyalty has to be earned, not assumed. Sophie revealed a fracture in your structure, and Roman noticed. Nathan's shoulders sagged slightly as he processed my words. For a long moment, he didn't speak, his expression unreadable. Thank you, he said at last, his voice quiet but sincere. Before I could respond, he reached into his jacket and produced something small and polished, a glimmering moonstone amulet. He placed it on my desk. This isn't a bribe, Scarlett, I wanted to acknowledge the misunderstandings between us. I eyed the amulet warily, the tension prickling at the back of my neck. It felt heavy with meaning, heavier than its physical weight suggested. My relationship with Roman or the Shadow Organization isn't something you or anyone here can buy into, I said firmly, though I didn't touch the amulet. I know, Nathan replied, determination flashing briefly in his dark eyes, but respect has to start somewhere. He hesitated at the door, glancing back. One last thing, Scarlett. Grace didn't build her connection with Alexander through nothing. She saved him once, from silver poisoning. The room went still. My body didn't move, but my pulse spiked as the words settled in. Nathan continued cautiously, perhaps mistaking my silence for curiosity. Their bond runs deeper than manipulation. If you still have feelings for him, it'd be easier to let them go now, because the two of them are inseparable. His words dug under my skin, unwanted and unwelcome. I swallowed the lump forming in my throat and forced a cold smile. What a touching story, I said dryly. Anything else? Nathan shook his head. No. Good luck, Scarlett. Something tells me you'll need it. Third person's POV. Nathan stepped into the hallway with a newfound calm settling over him. Despite Scarlett's sharp words, he walked away with clarity he hadn't possessed before entering her office. His footsteps echoed as they carried him away, but they didn't go unheard. Alexander was waiting further down, leaning against the wall outside the foyer. His expression was dark, unreadable, yet his posture betrayed barely concealed anger. Nathan caught sight of him from the corner of his eye and smirked faintly. Alexander? How convenient. How's that arm healing? Alexander stepped forward slowly, his eyes fixed on Nathan as his wolf stirred dangerously beneath the surface. What are you doing here? He demanded, his voice low and edged with venom. Handling business, Nathan replied casually. It's a shame you still don't seem to grasp that concept. Alexander's fists clenched at his sides. Stay away from Scarlett. Nathan raised an eyebrow, amusement dancing in his expression. And why would I? What interest do you still have in her? You have Grace, don't you? Or are things not as perfect as you make them seem? Leave her out of this, Alexander growled, his wolf mason edging closer to the surface. Nathan chuckled darkly. Relax, Alexander. Speaking of not fooling anyone, everyone knows you can't fully walk away from Scarlett, just like everyone knows she doesn't need you anymore. Alexander stepped closer, his teeth gritted. Go back to wherever you came from, Nathan, and while you're at it, watch your mouth. Nathan shrugged. Unaffected, you should be directing that threat toward Roman, not me. He's the reason you're spiraling into mediocrity. Nathan brushed past Alexander without another glance, heading toward the exit. His smirk remained as Alexander stood rooted in place, trembling with barely restrained fury. I had been turning the moonstone amulet in my hand, its cool surface smooth beneath my fingertips. I wasn't ready to forgive or accept what Nathan had said. The weight of his words gnawed at me, but I refused to let them take root. And then I heard the distinct sound of heavy steps storming toward me. Before I could even glance up, the door to my office swung open violently. "What the hell is this?" Alexander's voice thundered through the room. He stood in the doorway, his cast resting awkwardly at his side, his eyes blazing with anger. I raised my eyebrow, unamused. "You've certainly lost what little tact you once had." Alexander marched in, slamming the door shut behind him. His tone sharpened as his gaze fell on the amulet in my hand. "Are you accepting courtship gifts now?" he spat bitterly. Chapter 88, Dangerous Propositions. Fury radiated off Alexander in waves. His disheveled hair and the tension in his clenched fists were clear indicators of his foul mood. "You've got some nerve, Scarlett," he spat. His eyes darted to the amulet still in my hand before locking onto mine, sharp and accusing. "You'll do anything to get away from me and the Winters pack, won't you?" he sneered. "Seduce powerful alphas, play the victim, and manipulate alliances?" I blinked, momentarily stunned by his audacity. "I beg your pardon." "You heard me." His voice rose, pressing each word with venom. "First Roman now, Nathan. Who's next on your list of potential protectors? Or should I say pawns?" My shock quickly gave way to cold anger. Rising to my feet, I leaned forward on the desk, meeting his glare with one of my own. "You've really outdone yourself this time, Alexander. Is this what you've been stewing over lately? Fantasizing that I'm hopping from one alpha to another?" "Don't act innocent," he snapped, pointing an accusatory finger at me. "What the hell is Nathan doing, leaving gifts for you? That amulet isn't just some random trinket, Scarlett. It's symbolic, and you damn well know it." I couldn't help but laugh, sharp and humorless. "You've got a dirty mind, Alexander, always looking for filth so you can feel righteous. Let me remind you, I'm not the one sneaking around, playing games behind someone's back. Did you forget Grace? Or do her schemes just make it easier for you to look the other way?" His jaw tightened, but I wasn't done yet. "Why are you here, anyway? What business of yours is it who I work with, who I speak with, or who I accept gifts from? It's been years, Alexander. You have no hold over me. None." His face darkened further, a vein visibly throbbing at his temple. "This isn't just about us," I snorted. "There is no us. And yet you can't seem to resist taunting me." He bit back, his tone dripping with bitterness. "No, I'm simply reacting to your inability to stop meddling in my life," I countered. "For someone who supposedly moved on, you seem awfully obsessed with me." His fists were trembling now, venting some silent rage he was barely suppressing. "Don't flatter yourself, Scarlett. My concern is about the seaside mansion." I stilled. There it was, the real reason behind his intrusion. "What about the mansion?" I said, my voice calm now, though the air between us was anything but. His jaw worked furiously before he hissed. "You know exactly what I mean. Who owns it, Scarlett? It can't be you. Someone gave it to you. Who?" I tilted my head, pretending to think. "That's none of your concern, but I will say this. It's refreshing to see a future alpha like you struggling so hard to uncover a simple piece of information. Whose fault is that, I wonder?" His emerald green eyes flared with anger, and I could practically see the steam rising from his ears. "You think this is a game?" "No, I think it's pathetic," I shot back. "All this drama over a house that wouldn't even fix your pack's problems or save Grace. You're so desperate to prove you've got control and influence, but look where it's gotten you. Nathan's pursuing alliances, the Winters pack is floundering financially, and here you are, storming into my office like a lost pup." His shoulders tensed, his breath coming in sharp bursts. I leaned back in my chair again, smirking. "You don't scare me, Alexander. If you're here to make some kind of threat, save your breath. I've heard better from rogue wolves." He moved as if to say something more, but instead he spun on his heel and stormed out of the room. Before the door slammed shut behind him, he threw one last bitter warning over his shoulder. "You may think you've got it all figured out, Scarlett, but you're wading into dangerous waters. Pack politics can be deadly, especially if you're aligning with the wrong side." The door closed with a crash, leaving me alone in the suffocating silence. Every muscle in my body was twitching with barely contained rage as I stormed down the hallway of Scarlett's healing center. Her words echoed in my head, sharp and cutting, leaving a trail of humiliation in their wake. How could she mock me so easily? How could she brush things off as if none of this mattered? I clenched my fists tightly, each step pounding against the polished wooden floors. This wasn't just about my pride. It wasn't just about Grace. It was about power, control, and unraveling whatever mysterious game Scarlett was playing. And to think she had the audacity to taunt me about the mansion. My jaw tightened painfully as her mocking tone replayed in my mind. Pathetic, she'd said, like every struggle I endured was unworthy of acknowledgement. I stepped out into the cool air, sucking in a slow, steadying breath. Jason appeared at my side, his expression cautious. How did it go? I shot him a glare that could have sliced through steel. Right, Jason muttered, scratching the back of his neck, guessing it didn't go well. No, I said through gritted teeth. It didn't. I couldn't shake the image of the moonstone amulet glinting on Scarlett's desk, the way she held it like it was a prize. As badly as I wanted to flip the desk and demand answers, I couldn't, because Scarlett was right. I had no control over her. But pack politics weren't just about control. They were about alliances and leverage. And Scarlett? She was stepping into a whirlwind, one she barely understood. Nathan Blake was there earlier, wasn't he? I asked Jason, my voice low and sharp. Jason nodded hesitantly. Yeah, he left about 20 minutes before you showed up. Looked rattled, too. My lips twisted into a grimace. Nathan was weaving himself into Scarlett's web, just as Roman had. Both of them should have known better than to get involved with her, but it didn't matter anymore. Something's not adding up, I muttered, more to myself than Jason. What's the plan, then? He asked cautiously. I didn't respond immediately, my mind racing toward the bigger picture. Scarlett thought she had everything under control, but she was wrong. I wouldn't back down, not from Roman, not from Nathan, and especially not from Scarlett, Scarlett's POV. Minutes after Alexander's exit, Claire poked her head into the office. She glanced in the direction of the slamming door, raising a brow at me. Let me guess. Alexander being his usual delightful self? She quipped. I chuckled dryly, shaking my head. Delightful is one way to put it. Irritating, possessive, hypocritical, any of those would work too. She stepped inside, her arms crossed. I don't understand how you endured 2 years of engagement with that man. Honestly, neither do I admitted, leaning back in my chair with a sigh. Though, to be fair, he wasn't always this, bitter and desperate. Time and pack politics have done a number on him. Claire shook her head, looking genuinely bewildered. Before she could respond, my phone buzzed on the desk. The name flashing on the screen made my pulse quicken. Turning away slightly, I picked up. Roman, I greeted softly. Scarlett, his smooth voice came through, immediately calming my nerves. I need your opinion. I straightened, suddenly more alert. What's going on? I've been reviewing the financial records connected to the Winters pack, he explained. If we cut off their access to healing supplies entirely, I want to know, do you foresee any fallout on your end? I didn't hesitate. Cut them off, I said firmly. The pack has drained enough resources already, and I've long since stopped believing in Sarah's promises to handle things. Roman paused, his voice softening. I knew you'd say that. A small smile tugged at my lips. Do you ever just call to say hello anymore? His chuckle sent warmth blooming through me. Perhaps, but first, let me ask, have you missed me? I could feel my cheeks burning, heat rushing to my ears. The tension of the past days, the constant confrontations, all seemed to melt away at his simple question. But before I could gather myself to respond, my thumb slipped. I accidentally hung up the phone. Chapter 89, Protective Bonds. I froze, staring at the phone in my hand. Had I just hung up on Roman? My heart sank. My finger hovered over the screen. Should I call him back? Before I could make up my mind, the phone vibrated again. His name lit up the screen. Roman, I answered quickly, trying to keep my voice steady. Sorry about that, I didn't mean to hang up. It was an accident. His voice, rich with amusement, flooded my ears. An accident? He teased. Or were you avoiding my question? I wasn't avoiding it, I muttered, shifting uncomfortably. My gaze dropped to the desk in front of me, and I bit my lip. Good, he said, his tone lowering, softening. Then answer me, little wolf. Do you miss me? I swallowed hard, his words making my heart race. The nickname only he used felt like it carried so much weight. My voice barely came out. I do. His laugh on the other end was warm, pleased. I thought so. You have no idea how much I've missed you. There was a pause, then his tone shifted, lighter, more playful. Tonight, the chef will prepare something special, a candlelight dinner at the manor. Don't be late, Scarlett. Roman, you don't have to. I want to, he interrupted firmly. Let me. I sighed, the warmth in his tone breaking down my hesitation. All right, I agreed softly. Dinner, then. His chuckle came through the line, leisurely and content. Good. Now tell me, how are the Winter Pack and their little schemes? What are Sarah and Alexander up to? The mention of those names brought tension flooding back into my shoulders. While Roman's voice was calm, mine hardened. They're still desperate, I said simply. I heard Sarah is trying to pressure Aiden into treating Grace. And Aiden, Roman pressed, his tone sharp now. He hasn't budged, I assured him. Not yet. Roman chuckled, but the sound was darker this time. Let them try. I've already taken steps to press them harder. Harder than they'll ever expect, he said, his voice cold now, dripping with certainty. If they think scrambling for Aiden will save Grace, they're gravely mistaken. But tell me this, do you think I should escalate things further, Scarlett? I thought about it. Sarah's incessant manipulation, Grace's poisonous words, Alexander's interference, they'd all been clawing at me for months, trying to drag me down. But something stopped me from pushing for more retaliation. There was satisfaction in knowing their schemes were crumbling without my active effort. No, I said finally, my voice resolute. Let them squirm. They've done enough to themselves. They're their own worst enemies. Roman's laughter returned, softer, more amused. As you wish. Let the Winter Pack bury themselves. But remember, Scarlett, if they so much as blink the wrong way in your direction, you tell me. Their suffering doesn't bother me nearly as much as keeping you safe. His words warmed me in a way I wasn't ready to admit, but before I could respond, he changed the subject, his tone playful again. Now, wear something stunning tonight, he said. I want the stars to feel jealous when they look at you. I couldn't help but roll my eyes, though my lips curled into a smile. All right, Roman, I'll see you tonight. Don't make me wait, little wolf. The call ended, and I stared at the phone in my hands, warmth lingering in my chest. For a moment, I let myself relax, the sound of his voice still echoing in my ears. My frustration churned like a storm inside me. The memory of Scarlett's cold words from our last encounter clung to me, refusing to fade. She's different now, I muttered to Jason, pacing the confines of the study. It's like she's someone else entirely, the Scarlett I knew. I don't know who she is anymore. Jason was calm, leaning against the wall with that same infuriatingly neutral expression he always wore. Or maybe she's finally who she's always been, Alexander. You just didn't notice back then. I glared at him, his words only adding fuel to the fire. No, the Scarlett I knew wasn't like this. She wasn't. I trailed off, searching for the right word. She wasn't so independent, so sharp. She didn't act like she didn't need me. Jason let out a low chuckle. Sounds like the issue isn't her change, it's that she stopped depending on you. My jaw clenched. He wasn't wrong, but I hated hearing it. You're misunderstanding. Her independence isn't the problem. It's how she's going about it. Look at her. Roman, Nathan, who knows who else. She shrouds herself in all these men with power. Do you really think she's not using them? Jason frowned. I think you're oversimplifying, he said evenly. Look at what she's built. That healing center is no joke, Alexander. People rely on it. It's not something you just throw together, and it's definitely not something she could have built on manipulation alone. She's not harmless, I insisted, my voice rising. You should know that better than anyone. She's always calculating. Jason let out a small sigh, running his hand through his hair. Believe what you want, Alexander, but maybe the issue is that you underestimated her back then, and now it's too late to catch up. I didn't respond. His words stung, but rather than show it, I stormed toward the study door. As I pulled it open, I threw one parting shot over my shoulder. I don't care what you think, I'm going to see Grace. At least she's someone who still has loyalty. The sanatorium was quiet when I arrived. The faint smell of herbs filled the air, and the distant sound of soft music drifted through the open hallways. Sarah greeted me at the entrance with a bright smile. Alexander, you made it. I nodded, though I couldn't help but glance past her, searching for Grace. Of course. How is she today? Sarah's expression faltered slightly, but she quickly recovered. She's better now that you're here. Go on, she's been asking about you all morning. I stepped past her and entered Grace's room. She sat propped up by a mountain of pillows, her pale blue eyes lighting up when she saw me. Alexander, she whispered, her voice weak but full of emotion. I crossed the room and settled into the chair beside her bed. I'm here, I said softly, reaching for her hand. Her fingers curled around mine, ice cold to the touch. You always come, she said with a faint smile. Thank you for not abandoning me, Alexander. Her words twisted something deep inside me. She was so fragile, so dependent on me, and yet I couldn't bring myself to be the one to deliver hope, not when so much was uncertain. I'll always come for you, I promised, trying to keep my voice steady. You don't have to thank me for that. Her eyes drifted to the window, her expression suddenly wistful. The mansion. Have you made any progress? I froze, the question punching me in the gut. I couldn't bring myself to admit the truth, not when I saw the faint hope lighting her eyes. It's progressing, I lied, forcing a smile. Don't worry, we're close. Her thin lips curled into a faint smile. That house will feel like a dream. Do you remember the art I told you about? The ones I wanted to hang in the sitting room? I was thinking we could add roses, too. Pink ones. They'd look so beautiful. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak. Her calm acceptance of the mansion as a certainty, when it felt like anything but, made my chest ache. Then her eyes turned serious, filled with an emotion I didn't expect. Alexander, she whispered, her voice trembling, if the silver gets me before the mansion. She paused, her gaze swimming with unshed tears. Promise me you'll bury me by the sea. My heart seized. Stop, I said, my voice cracking slightly. Don't talk like that. You're going to make it. You won't. Promise me, she pressed, her hand gripping mine weakly but urgently. I covered her hand with my other one, my throat tight. Don't say things like that, Grace. I won't let you die. You hear me? You'll live. You'll see the roses. Her lip trembled, but she gave me a faint nod, seemingly reassured by my words. Before I could say anything more, my phone buzzed loudly in my pocket. My mother's name glared up at me from the screen. I answered reluctantly, already bracing myself for her sharp tone. Alexander, she barked. Your father wants you home, now. Mother, I'm not interested in excuses, she snapped. You've spent enough time with Grace. It's unbecoming, Alexander, and it's not helping your standing with the family. Return home immediately. I clenched my jaw, my grip tightening on the phone. I can't just abandon her. I've heard enough, she said coldly, before ending the call without waiting for a response. I sighed heavily, setting the phone down and looking back at Grace. She was staring at me, worry etched into her frail features. Alexander? She whispered. I forced a smile, brushing a strand of hair from her face. It's nothing. I'll handle it. You rest, Grace. Though her lips pressed into a faint smile, the doubt in her eyes felt like a mirror to the uncertainty blooming in my chest. As I left the sanatorium, the weight of my family's expectations and Grace's fragility pulled me in opposite directions. For the first time in years, I felt truly utterly lost. Chapter 90. Twisted Truths and Desperate Plans. Grace's POV. Lying on my side, I stared at my phone with a wicked grin spreading across my pale lips. My trembling fingers typed out a message, carefully crafted to provoke Scarlett. Though my body radiated weakness from the ever-worsening silver poisoning, there was still satisfaction to be found in watching someone else squirm. Scarlett, especially, was such an easy target. Alexander promised that once we have the seaside mansion, he'll decorate it with my favorite white roses. Can you imagine? It'll look so beautiful when it's mine. My eyes flicked over the words before hitting send. How much better could life get than having Scarlett know Alexander was still by my side? She may have her proud little healing center, her supposed autonomy, but I had Alexander, and wherever he was, envy would follow her. Seconds passed. Then her reply arrived. Congratulations. Just one cold, unfeeling word. Ah! The phone nearly slipped out of my hand as I gripped it tightly in frustration. That wasn't the response I wanted. No anger, no resentment, just indifference oozing from those 12 characters. Did she think she was above all of this? Did she think her lack of reaction would spare her the embarrassment of losing? Forcing myself calmer, I told myself Scarlett's distant tone didn't matter. What mattered was Alexander's devotion to me. Didn't he show it every day in the sanctuary, promising with his actions and presence that I was his first priority? Yes, I whispered to myself, a sickly smile curling my lips. Yet deep inside, uncertainty gnawed at me. Could he truly secure the mansion? Would his promise hold weight when Scarlett had such mysterious, powerful protectors? Humph. Of course, he will manage. He always does, I murmured, trying to pacify the creeping doubt. Before I could lose myself further in spirals of doubt, the door to my treatment room creaked open, and Sarah Winters stepped inside. Her anxious eyes roamed over my frail form before softening. "How's my beautiful girl feeling today?" she asked, though her voice carried a weight I couldn't ignore. Quickly, I hit delete on my messages to Scarlett and tucked my phone away. Sarah's presence always made me tread carefully, even though she was firmly in my corner. "Better," I lied, offering her a weak smile. "Alexander promised we'll decorate the seaside mansion with roses. He's really going all out to make it perfect for me." For a moment, the strain etched into her face eased as she smiled warmly. "He's such a devoted partner. You're lucky to have someone like him, Grace, especially in these trying times." Her words momentarily soothed me, chasing away my doubts. If Sarah believed in Alexander, then maybe I could too. But as we spent more time together, my unease returned. It wasn't just because of the silver fire raging under my skin, it was Sarah's hesitance. "So, Scarlett," I ventured cautiously, trying to sound nonchalant, "what's stopping you from signing those severance papers she sent?" Sarah faltered, her hands pausing mid-air as she adjusted the blanket over me. She frowned, avoiding my gaze. "It's not an easy decision, Grace. She may have hurt this pack's harmony, but she's still my daughter. I can't just wipe her away like she doesn't matter." Her words sent a spark of fear through me. This wasn't good. Sarah's divided loyalty was dangerous. If she clung to the hope of reconciling with Scarlett, it might unravel everything I had worked so hard to secure in the pack. "But Scarlett has been distant for so long," I pressed, my voice faint but insistent. "She's barely part of this pack anymore. Maybe it's better for everyone to make things official." Sarah turned to me, an unreadable expression in her weary eyes. "There's more to it than that, Grace. Scarlett's defiance, her outbursts. I can't deny that part of her has always been wild, but I can't ignore the possibility that the Thorn Pack mistreated her worse than we ever imagined." I hardened my features to look empathetic, though panic twisted in my gut. I couldn't let Sarah reconnect with Scarlett, not when so much of my own survival depended on Scarlett being ostracized. "That may be," I said carefully, feigning thoughtfulness. "But wouldn't it be better to focus on those who've stood by you this whole time? People like Alexander and me?" Sarah tilted her head, studying me with a faint smile. "You've always been my steady one, Grace. Even now, you're looking out for me." Feigning modesty, I reached for her hand, though the motion sent fiery pain coursing through my arm. "Of course. Everything I do is for this family." Before Sarah could say anything else, shooting agony ripped through my chest. I gasped, convulsing as the silver venom surged through my veins like molten fire. My entire body seized as the poison took hold again, drawing a horrified scream from my lips. "Grace!" Sarah cried, rushing to my bedside. The poison was unforgiving. I could see panic etched on her face as her voice carried, calling for the healers. "Help! Someone, please come quickly." The room blurred, my vision clouding as I caught glimpses of movement, a pack healer rushing in, Sarah's voice cracking with desperation. It didn't matter, though. The venom became a reminder of my fragile hold over everything. If I wasn't careful, it wouldn't just take my wolf. It would take everything I cared for, too. The warm smell of freshly baked bread filled the small cafe as Emma and I settled into seats by the sunny window. My chest eased for the first time in what felt like days. "So," Emma started, sipping on her tea with an unmistakably mischievous smile. "Guess what I heard about our favorite dying she-wolf?" I arched an eyebrow, a faint smirk tugging at my lips. "Grace again? What now?" Emma leaned forward, her tone dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. Apparently, things aren't going well for her. The poison is spreading faster than even the healers expected. It's gotten so bad they say she might not be able to ever shift again. Her eyes widened theatrically as she added, and from what I hear, Alexander is running himself ragged, trying to secure that seaside mansion. The amused snort that left me wasn't very dignified. He's wasting his time. That mansion will never be theirs, not as long as Roman has a say. Emma grinned. I thought you'd say that. Tell me, though, how does it feel knowing Grace is practically falling apart while you're thriving in every way? I pursed my lips, tapping my fork idly against my plate. Cold satisfaction. My tone was brutally indifferent. She made her choices. Now she can deal with the consequences. Dying or not, she's irrelevant to me. Emma tilted her head curiously. Really? You're telling me you don't enjoy watching her struggle just a little? I'd be lying if I said I didn't, I admitted, though my voice stayed neutral. Anyway, forget her, Emma said cheerfully, brushing the subject aside as she swirled her drink with her straw. How about we go out tonight? There's a new club opening downtown. Just imagine, dancing, laughing, and maybe even a little flirting. I cut her off with a wry smile. You're forgetting someone. Roman? Pfft. Who cares what Mr. Overprotective thinks? I couldn't help but laugh at her audacity. He does. You know how he gets about me. And anyway, I don't want to cause a scene that could blow back on the center. Emma groaned dramatically, leaning back in her chair. Fine. I suppose being responsible is on brand for you. That's right, I teased, sipping my coffee. As the light-hearted conversation continued, my thoughts drifted momentarily to another figure absent from my life. I miss Natalie, I said softly, surprising even myself with the comment. Emma blinked at me. Roman's cousin? I forgot about her. What brought that up? She was there for me after I left the Thorn Pack, I explained, my voice lowering. Those months were hard, and she made them just a little more bearable. Do you think you'll ever reconnect? Maybe, I murmured, my heart twisting just a little at the memory. Some bonds, no matter the distance or time, could never truly break.